I built an empire from dust, crushed stone, and the kind of deals that leave a man with steel in his handshake and nothing in his chest. But the night I stumbled back into the town I swore I'd outgrown, a barefoot kid with a half-eaten sandwich and a heart too big for his body reminded me why I ever swung a hammer in the first place. You ever walk through a house so quiet you start hearing things that ain't there? Pipes ticking like distant footsteps. Wind breathing through window panes. And beneath it all, your own heartbeat, loud as hell because the rest of the world finally shut up. That's what my house sounds like most nights. Name's Brian Ellis. I'm 48 years old, president and founder of Ellis & Sons Materials, one of the biggest suppliers of structural aggregate in the state. If you've driven on a highway in the Midwest in the last 15 years, odds are you've rolled over rock I paid to crush. They call me a self-made man, like that's a badge. Like it ain't stitched together with 20-hour workdays, blood in your coffee, and no one calling you on your birthday because you forgot there's 5 years in a row. I built my first gravel yard with 2 busted dump trucks and a cousin I don't speak to anymore. That was back when I still used to laugh. Now I own 27 yards in 5 states for mixing plants and a fleet of trucks so big they need their own insurance team. I'm rich. Real rich. Like my toothpaste costs more than your rent rich. And yet here I am sitting in the dark with a glass of scotch I don't even like, staring at the fire like it owes me something. You'd think money would buy peace. Turns out it just rents silence. I had a dream last night. Haven't remembered one in years. In it I was maybe 10, barefoot, running across the back lot of my grandma's house. Grass up to my knees. Sprinklers shooting rainbow arcs across the sun. I wasn't running from anything, I was running to something. That old plastic wagon I used to pretend was a race car. God, I used to love that damn thing. I woke up smiling. That alone scared the hell out of me. Most mornings I wake up with my jaw clenched like I'm about to go 12 rounds with my own schedule. This morning, though, something was different. I looked around my bedroom, all leather, glass, and that one pretentious painting my assistant said would soften the energy. It just made the place feel lonelier. I got dressed in clothes I didn't pick, lace boots I didn't break in, and stepped into the elevator that takes me from my penthouse to my armored garage like I'm afraid of gravity. I passed by my fleet of matte black cars and picked the oldest one, an '88 Ford pickup I bought before the money came. And I drove. No phone. No GPS. No driver trailing me like a shadow with a clipboard. Just me. And the road. I drove west, through neighborhoods that used to have names now replaced with code numbers for real estate developments. Somewhere around mile marker 40, I saw a sign that made my hands lock up on the wheel. Welcome to Trenton, my hometown. It wasn't a plan. I didn't even realize I was heading there. But I slowed down, turned off onto a side road paved with more potholes than pavement. Windows down. Country air filtering in like it still had some honesty left. Trenton used to be a working town. Cement plants, warehouses, union jobs that let a man buy a house and still have enough left for Little League. Now it's a ghost with a heartbeat. Shuttered stores. Rusted swing sets. But the bones are still there. So are the memories. I parked outside what used to be Dawson's Grocery. It's a vape shop now run by a kid with a neck tattoo and dead eyes. I didn't go in. Just stood there, hands in my pockets, soaking in the way time strips the polish off everything. Then I walked. Past the library where I read my first book about bridges. Past the alley where I got my first black eye. Past the house where my mother worked as a cleaner for $6 an hour, humming old gospel songs like they were spells. I stopped in front of a cracked lot with a bent chain link fence. Used to be the community park. Now it's weeds and bottle caps. And there, sitting on the edge of a busted slide, was a kid. Couldn't be more than 10. Skinny knees poking through ripped jeans. A ball cap too big for his head and a backpack twice his size. He was eating a sandwich like it was the last one on earth. He looked up at me. You lost? He asked. I smiled. First time all day. Maybe I said. You. He shrugged. Just eaten. School sucks. Yeah, I said. It does. We sat there a minute. 2 strangers in a dead park sharing silence. Then he said something that hit me harder than any contract negotiation ever has. My mom says we're gonna move again. She always says that when we can't pay rent. I didn't know what to say, so I didn't say anything. He stuffed the rest of his sandwich in his mouth and stood. Wanna see something cool? I nodded. He led me to the back of the lot where the fence bent open just enough for a kid to squeeze through. Behind it was a rusted-out lawnmower, half buried in ivy. And next to it, painted on the concrete wall of an old loading dock, was a mural. Faded, cracked, but beautiful. A picture of kids playing beneath a giant sun. Stick figures, smiling. My sister did that before she went away, he said, eyes proud. I think it's the best thing in the whole town. I nodded. I think you might be right. And right there, standing in the shadow of decay, I felt something rise up in my chest. Something warm, old, dangerous. Hope. It didn't come from money. It didn't come from the empire I built. It came from a kid, a sandwich, and a mural made of fading paint. And I knew then. I hadn't just wandered back to Trenton. I'd come home. I stayed in town longer than I meant to. Just one day, I told myself, drive by the old house, maybe grab a coffee, let the ghosts rattle around a bit and be on my way. But ghosts don't work like that. They hang around. They crawl under your skin, tap your ribs, whisper things in your ear like, remember this? remember who you were? That kid I met, his name was Tyler. I found that out the next morning when I saw him again. He was sitting outside a convenience store with a bag of ice on his hand and a look in his eyes that said, "Don't ask." "Rough day?" I said, leaning against the hood of my truck. He nodded, quiet. "Want a ride home?" He looked me over like he wasn't sure if I was offering candy or kindness. "You a cop?" I laughed. "Do I look like a cop?" "You look like someone who's either really rich or really homeless." "Smart kid." "I'm the first one," I said. "Just not loud about it." He squinted. "Rich people don't come to Trenton." "Guess I'm bad at being rich." He cracked a grin. "Okay. But I'm not telling my mom I got in a stranger's truck. Tell her I'm an old friend of the town." That seemed to satisfy him. He climbed in. Turns out he lived in a tiny duplex behind the old bowling alley next to a burned-out laundromat that hadn't worked since Bush was in office. His mom, Claire, answered the door with a look that told me she didn't have time for anything, especially not strange men in steel toe boots and expensive watches. "I'm not selling anything," I said before she could speak. "Just gave Tyler a ride." Her eyes softened. "Just a hair. He gets into fights. Doesn't start him though," Tyler mumbled. She sighed. "Come in, I guess." "You want coffee?" "It's instant." I nodded. "Only kind worth drinking." The place was small. Lived in. Dishes drying by the sink. A pile of mail rubber banded together on the counter, red envelopes that screamed urgent even with the ink faded. Tyler sat on the arm of the couch, watching me like a dog watches a stranger near its food bowl. Claire handed me a mug. Cracked handle. Smelled like memory. "You passing through?" she asked. I sipped. "Maybe. Used to live here." She nodded like that explained everything. Hard place to stay. Harder to leave. She didn't ask what I did. Didn't ask why I was there. Maybe she knew I wouldn't answer. Instead, she said something that's stuck in my head since. "You ever miss when the best part of your day was a grilled cheese and 5 minutes of quiet?" I smiled. "I miss when grilled cheese tasted like the answer to everything." She smiled back. Tired. But real. That afternoon I walked the length of Main Street. Boarded up shops, graffiti-tagged corners, and one barber still open, probably because the owner couldn't afford to die. Every step brought back something. My first job sweeping a garage floor. My first kiss behind the library, nervous and quick like a stolen word. The smell of hot asphalt in July and snow that never seemed to melt in February. I ended up at Dawson's again. Or what used to be Dawson's. The vape shop kid was outside now, vaping something that smelled like fake blueberries and battery acid. He eyed me like I was trouble. "You looking for something?" he asked. "Used to be a grocery store here," I said. He snorted. "Yeah, like 10 years ago. My dad worked here," I said. "Stock boy. He'd bring home bent cans like they were treasure." He looked me over aboard. "Cool, man." Then he walked back inside. I stood there for a while, remembering how my dad's hands used to shake when he counted bills at the kitchen table. How proud he was the day he fixed the washing machine without calling anyone. How he used to say, "Son, money don't make a man. Sweat does." He died before I made my first million. Would have been 70 this year. I never even told him goodbye. I went back to my truck and stared at the steering wheel for a long time. I could leave. Still time to make my afternoon call with the guys at the materials plant in Des Moines. They were pitching a new site near the interstate. More trucks. More land. More everything. But I didn't start the engine. I grabbed a pen from the glove box and flipped open my leather-bound planner. The one I hadn't written in since my assistant started syncing everything with my phone. I tore out a blank sheet. And I started writing. Not a contract. Not a memo. Just a list. Things I miss. The smell of rain on hot concrete. My mom's humming. Getting excited about gas station candy. Laughing without checking my watch. Being needed for something that isn't money. I folded it once. Put it in my jacket. Then I drove to City Hall. The woman behind the glass looked startled when I asked to speak to someone about a land parcel. I told her I was interested in the old park on 9th and Bell. She raised an eyebrow. "You a developer?" "No, ma'am. I'm just a guy with a truck and a shovel." She didn't believe me. But she scheduled me a meeting anyway. That night, I sat in the motel off Route 7, the one with flickering signs and sheets that smell like bleach, and I stared at a napkin I'd scribbled something on. "It's not about what you build. It's about who gets to stand on it." I don't remember writing that, but I remember feeling it. And for the first time in a decade, I slept straight through the night. The room they gave me at City Hall smelled like mold and forgotten paperwork. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, and the chairs had that special kind of government discomfort, just enough padding to trick you into sitting, not enough to keep you there. I was early. Habit. You don't run a business like mine without learning that the person who shows up first usually gets to set the tone. 10 minutes later, in walked a man who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Mid-50s, brown corduroy jacket, coffee stain on his tie. He introduced himself as Greg Manson, city planning liaison. "What exactly are you hoping to do with the 9th and Bell property, Mr. Ellis?" he asked, flipping through a manila folder with all the enthusiasm of a DMV clerk on hour 10. "I'd like to buy it," I said. He blinked, then squinted like I'd just spoken in Morse code. "You want to purchase the park?" I nodded. "It's not much of a park anymore. I figured I could do something with it." He frowned. "We had a proposal 2 years ago from a storage company. They offered low 6 figures, but the zoning committee stalled it. Locals protested. Good, I said. That means they still care. He tilted his head, reassessing me. What do you want to build? I reached into my coat and handed him the list. The one I wrote in the truck. I'd rewritten it neatly that morning, typed up and printed on clean paper. At the top, proposal, Trenton Commons, a community space built from purpose. Underneath, playground equipment, small sports court, open-air pavilion for weekend markets, a memorial garden, free tool library shed, outdoor mural space for local artists. Manson read it twice. Then again. I watched his brow furrow, then lift. This is unusual, he said, looking up. Most people want to make money off the land. I've made enough, I said. Time to build something that doesn't have a return on investment, at least not the kind you can spend. He sat back, chewing the inside of his cheek. You got any connection to this town? I nodded. Used to live 5 blocks from the site. My dad took me to that park after graveyard shifts. That seemed to mean something to him. Or maybe it was the way I said it, like it still mattered. Like it still hurt a little. I'll take it to the committee, he said. Might take a few weeks. I've got time. On the way out, I passed a couple of construction guys in the hallway arguing over permits. I nodded to them out of habit. One of them looked at me and narrowed his eyes. Brian Ellis? He asked. I paused. Yeah. He grinned. Holy hell, I poured concrete for Ellis and Sons up in Cedar Bluff 3 years back. You built a hell of a crew out there. Thanks, I said, surprised. He stuck out his hand. Calloused. Grease under the nails. Name's Tony. You here for a bit? No, I said, shaking his hand. Something smaller. Something personal. Tony nodded. Well, if you need hands, me and my brother always looking for honest work. I didn't know it then, but that moment would change everything. Because I did need hands. And honesty was about to be hard to come by. I spent the next few days moving through town like a ghost. No press. No business cards. Just a guy with a quiet mission and enough guilt in his gut to repave Main Street. I bought coffee from the diner where my mom once waitressed. The cook still had the same tattoo of a bulldog on his arm, now faded and sagging like an old promise. He didn't recognize me and I didn't remind him. I walked past the church where I got baptized in a kiddie pool with a slow leak. Place was boarded up now, a foreclosure notice flapping in the wind. I thought about buying it, thought about restoring it, but it didn't feel right. That's the thing about fixing things, you have to know which ones still want saving. On Thursday, I ran into Claire again. She was outside her apartment, trying to carry 3 bags of groceries while keeping Tyler from skateboarding into traffic. Need a hand? I asked. She smiled. A real one this time. That obvious? I grabbed the bags and followed her inside. The place looked better. Cleaner. Maybe it was just the light. Maybe it was her standing a little straighter. You planning on sticking around? She asked as I set the groceries down. Depends. On? If this place still feels like home. She nodded. Didn't press. You're not like other rich guys, she said. I chuckled. You know a lot of rich guys? Used to clean houses in Eden Park. They smiled a lot but never made eye contact. I winced. Well, I said I don't like smiling that much anyway. She laughed. Tyler peeked out from behind a door, holding something behind his back. What's that? I asked. He hesitated, then held it up. It was a drawing. Crayon on printer paper. A sketch of a park, bright with color, slide, swings, a fountain with a little plaque on it. At the bottom, in bold red letters, Future Park, Hope Place. I felt something crack open in my chest. That yours? I asked. He nodded. I want to paint the real one. You just might, kid. And I meant it. Because I'd already called Tony. And he'd already found 5 more guys who were looking for something that matters. We didn't have permits yet. Didn't have a budget. But we had hammers. And heart. And sometimes, that's enough to start. We broke ground before we had permission. Not officially. Not on paper. But early one morning, fog still low, air sharp enough to bite, we stood on that cracked lot with gloves on, thermoses full of black coffee, and boots planted like roots. Tony and his brother Leo brought the tools. I brought the fuel cards, cash for plywood, and a rented bobcat from the next county over. No logos, no invoices. Just sweat, noise, and motion. It felt like coming alive again. First to go was the rusted jungle gym, bent steel and splinters, the kind of thing you could impale a memory on. We tore it down piece by piece, Tyler watching from the fence like it was a demolition derby. Claire showed up halfway through the morning with sandwiches wrapped in foil and a smile that made the cold back off a little. She didn't say anything, just handed them out, nodded at the work, and stood in the sun like it was finally worth standing in. I hadn't told anyone who I was yet. Not really. Not what I owned. Not what I'd built. And the funny part? It felt good. Strange, sure. Like wearing someone else's boots that fit a little too well. But good. I wasn't Mr. Ellis or Sir or Boss. I was Brian. Just a guy with a shovel and a past he hadn't finished forgiving himself for. That first week, we cleared the lot, hauled off trash, tore out weed-choked fencing, and regraded the ground using gravel from my own company ordered under a dummy name, paid in full, no favors pulled. By the end of it, we had space, possibility, a clean slate with sunlight on it, and people started noticing. Kids leaned over fences. An old man across the street brought out lawn chairs and started watching us like it was his new favorite show. Even the local paper sent a kid with a camera who asked, "Is this a city project?" "Nope," I said, wiping sweat from my brow. "Then what is it?" I paused, looked around, thought about that mural, that drawing in Tyler's hands. It's what happens when folks stop waiting to be saved. She blinked, jotted it down like it meant something. The article ran 2 days later. Local crew restores forgotten lot into community park. No red tape, just grit. No mention of my name. Just a blurry photo of us digging post holes and laughing like idiots. My phone lit up after that. Not the burner I'd been using for this project, the real one. The one I kept in my glove box, turned off like it owed me an apology. I finally powered it up. 32 voicemails. 94 unread messages. The office. My lawyer. My CFO. One from a board member asking if I was in some kind of crisis. I deleted them all. Except one. It was from my assistant, Sheila. Mr. Ellis, you've missed 2 strategy calls and the Memphis proposal is hanging in the wind. Are you all right? Just let us know you're alive, please. You matter, sir. You always have. That last line stuck. Not because of what she said, but because she sounded like she meant it. That Friday, I sat on the bed at the motel with my boots still on, trying to rub the ache out of my knees. The kind of ache that feels earned. There was a knock at the door. It was Claire. She held a Tupperware container and a half smile. I figured you might be living off gas station jerky and pride, she said. I laughed. You're not wrong. She stepped in. The room suddenly felt smaller in a way I didn't mind. We ate on the edge of the bed, legs swinging like we were kids at recess. Chicken and rice. Warm. Simple. Healing. You've done more for this town in 3 weeks than the council's done in 10 years, she said. I haven't done anything, I muttered. Not yet. She looked at me. Really looked. Brian, why are you here? I wanted to lie. Say something smooth. Deflect with a joke. But the silence between us didn't allow for that. I built something, I said. A company. A name. A legacy. But somewhere along the way I forgot why. She nodded slowly. And this? The park. This is me remembering. She set down her fork. You're not staying, are you? I didn't answer. Because I didn't know yet. The next day, the vandalism happened. We showed up to find the mural wall tagged with black spray paint. Slurs. An upside-down flag. The words. No one cares. Tyler saw it first. He didn't say anything. Just stood there, fists clenched, breathing like he was swallowing fire. I walked over, crouched next to him. You know what this means? I asked. He didn't answer. It means we're getting noticed. He looked at me, eyes glassy. So what now? I stood, looked over the lot. At the men I'd come to trust. At the town trying to believe again. Now, I said, we paint something even louder. We spent the rest of that Saturday scrubbing hate off the wall. Power washer screamed. Bleach stung our noses. Tyler scrubbed with both hands like he was trying to erase the whole memory. He didn't say a word the entire time. None of us did. Sometimes silence is just the sound of people refusing to give up. By evening, the wall was blank again. Clean, but raw. Like skin after a burn. I stood there, hands on my hips, staring at it as the last of the sun caught the edges. The air smelled like soap and stubbornness. I pulled a Sharpie from my pocket and scrawled something in the bottom corner, just for us. Try again. Louder. Claire brought pizza for dinner, 2 boxes, already going cold, but nobody complained. We sat on paint buckets and cinder blocks, eating slices like soldiers after battle. There was something unspoken in the air, some fragile electricity that said, this ain't over, and maybe that's a good thing. Then Tyler walked over with his backpack slung off one shoulder. I want to start the mural tonight, he said. Tony blinked. It's dark. I got a flashlight. The kid was serious. Not mad. Not loud. Just, sure. I looked at the crew, then at the sky turning violet above us. One by one, they nodded. Let's light it up, I said. We grabbed work lamps and ran an extension cord from a nearby porch. Someone set up speakers. Soft music played, some acoustic thing I didn't recognize, but it fit. And then Tyler started to paint. Not with brushes. With his hands. Smears of red, green, blue. He moved like he wasn't thinking, like the wall was pulling it out of him. Little by little, the blank space bloomed. He painted kids, dozens of them. Different colors, shapes, sizes. Smiling. Playing. One sat with a book. Another flew a kite. One had a cast on his leg and was still climbing the monkey bars. Right in the center, he painted a single word in blocky orange letters. Enough. None of us asked what it meant. We all knew. The city council called on Monday. Greg Manson's voice was different this time. Not stiff. Not tired. Almost excited. The mayor saw the article. She wants to meet. I wasn't sure if that was good news or bad news. Turns out it was both. The meeting happened in a community center that still smelled like linoleum and microwaved regret. The mayor was sharp-eyed, late 40s, blazer with rolled sleeves and a no bullshit tone that could probably shatter glass. I've heard what you're doing, she said. Unofficially. I stayed quiet. You're operating without permits. I nodded. You used personal funds to pay for city land improvements. Another nod. She tapped her pen on the table. You know I should shut you down. I know. But I'm not going to. That surprised me. Why not? I asked. She leaned in. Because people are talking. And for the first time in years, they're not talking about taxes or crime. They're talking about hope. She slid a folder across the table. Inside was a permit. Stamped. Approved. For now, she added, you're official. I didn't smile. But I felt something shift. A page turning. I told Claire that night. She hugged me. Just once. Tight. No words. Then she looked at me the same way she did the first time we met, like she was trying to see through the good to find the catch. Why are you really doing this? She asked. And I told her. I told her about the millions, the boardrooms, the names etched on steel plaques, the truckloads of crushed stone laid across 5 states, and how none of it felt real anymore. I built everything I was supposed to, I said. But somewhere in the middle of all that noise, I forgot what made it matter. I forgot what it felt like to help someone who could look me in the eye and say thank you without a damn invoice attached. She sat with that for a long time, then said something I didn't expect. You know, you could have done all this and still stayed hidden. Nobody knew who you were. You could have left it behind. I thought about it. So why didn't you? I looked out the window at the half-finished court under the streetlights, at Tyler dragging a brush through blue paint with the concentration of a monk. Because I want people to see me now, I said. Not the man who made the money. The man who remembered why he started. The next morning, a man in a navy suit showed up on the lot. Slick hair. Glossy shoes. Clip-on smile. He walked up to me like he'd just stepped off a magazine cover. Mr. Ellis, he said, holding out a hand. Big fan. Carl Novak, acquisitions lead for Pax Corp. I didn't shake. You're far from the city, I said. We go where the money leads. He gestured around. We read about this little project. Really impressive. Real grassroots charm. Perfect for a story arc. A story arc? Marketing, he said. Sentiment sells. We'd like to discuss licensing your name. Even offer you a speaking tour. TV spots. Corporate partnerships. You'd still get to do your good work, but with scale. I stared at him. Then I said the first thing that came to mind. Get the hell off my lot. His smile faltered. Excuse me. You heard me. Button. You sell at space, Novak. I'm trying to build something that doesn't have a barcode. He blinked. You really gonna pass on 7 figures for a patch of dirt and some finger paint? I stepped closer. It's not dirt. It's home. And it's not finger paint. It's someone's future. His mouth opened. Closed. Then he left. No handshake. No parting shot. Just silence. Which is exactly what I wanted. That night, Tony lit a small fire pit near the pavilion. We passed around folding chairs and old stories. I didn't say much. Just watched the flames and thought about how long it took me to feel like a man again. Not a boss. Not a brand. A man. And as the fire crackled, Tyler leaned over and whispered, I think this place is magic now. I looked around. I believed him. It was around 3 a.m. when I heard the first bang. Not the kind you mistake for wind or a drunk neighbor slamming a door. This was sharper. Closer. Metal on metal. Intentional. I grabbed the bat from behind the motel door. I kept it there after the tagging incident and stepped out barefoot into the parking lot, gravel biting my soles. That's when I saw it. Smoke. Billowing up from behind the park. I didn't think. I ran. By the time I got there, the tool shed was already half gone, flames licking through the roof like angry tongues. Paint cans exploded inside, sending streaks of color hissing across the gravel. The mural wall was scorched but still standing. Barely. Someone had poured gasoline in a circle and lit it like a warning. I stood there, panting in the smoke, watching it all unravel. And I felt something I hadn't felt since I buried my father. Helpless. Then headlights cut through the dark, Tony's truck, followed by 2 others. Men jumped out with blankets, fire extinguishers, whatever they had. No sirens. No city help. Just us. Just family by choice. We fought it down with everything we had. Shovels, water jugs, elbow grease and curses. By dawn, the fire was out. But the damage? That stayed. The cops showed up around 9. Late. Disinterested. Looks like arson, the officer said, scribbling like he had somewhere better to be. Any enemies? I stared at him. None that'd admit it. He gave a lazy nod and told me someone would be in touch. They wouldn't. We both knew that. Word got around fast. That's the thing about small towns, they may forget your birthday but they'll remember your disaster. By noon, we had visitors. Not just lookers. Workers. Volunteers. Retired electricians. Teenagers with paint rollers. A single mom who brought every spare screwdriver she had and said, tell me what to fix. And standing off to the side, arms folded, was Claire. This is what I meant, she said softly. You lit a match, Brian. And not the kind that burns. I nodded, throat thick. Still feels like it's crumbling. She stepped closer. So rebuild it. Stronger. That night, I sat with Tyler on a stack of lumber that hadn't burned. We stared at the mural. It had survived mostly. The fire left a black scar through the bottom corner, right over the word enough. He didn't speak for a while. Then, can we paint over it? No, I said. He turned, confused. Because scars tell stories, I said. And this one says we didn't stop. He nodded slowly, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a piece of chalk. In crooked letters, just above the burn mark, he wrote, Still here? That weekend I made a decision. It wasn't loud. Wasn't bold. It was the kind that shifts behind your ribs then settles into your bones like it's always been there. I wasn't leaving. Not now. Maybe not ever. The crew knew before I said it. Claire knew before I admitted it. Even Tyler, that sharp little mind of his, started calling me Mr. Park Boss like it was my job title. And maybe it was. Because every time I tried to think about going back to the boardrooms, the contracts, the sleek buildings with echoing lobbies, I felt sick. Like I'd be walking away from the only thing I ever did that actually meant something. I spent the next few days writing letters. To my CFO, you'll do fine without me. Just remember, numbers are only worth counting if people are behind them. To my board, buy me out or don't, I'm not coming back. I'm not a commodity. I'm a man again. To Sheila, thank you for reminding me that I matter. That one voicemail meant more than all the investor calls I ever took. And then I turned off the phone again. Permanently. Tony's wife made a big pot of gumbo the next Friday. We served it at the park on folding tables under string lights we'd borrowed from the church nobody attended but everybody respected. The whole town came. Not because of us. Because of it. The place we'd built. Kids ran barefoot through the gravel paths. Old-timers played checkers on stumps we'd turned into tables. Claire danced with a woman I didn't recognize. Tyler helped a little girl fix her paper kite when it tore. I stood off to the side with a cup of coffee and tears I didn't bother hiding. That night, as the last of the lights dimmed and people drifted home, I walked the perimeter of the park one last time. I touched the swing set, the one we'd welded ourselves. I tapped the shed door, rebuilt from salvaged wood. I laid a hand on the mural, and I whispered thank you. Not to anyone, just to the moment, to the place, to the version of myself I'd finally remembered how to be. The next morning, the mayor called. Brian, she said, you've got a problem. Only one. I asked. You've become a symbol. People from neighboring towns are asking how to do what you did. We've got folks calling from 3 counties. They want to help. They want to build. I laughed. So what's the problem? They all want you. I leaned back in my chair, sun on my face, heart light for the first time in years. Then I guess I'd better find some more dirt. There's a sound dirt makes when it settles. Not the loud crunch of boots or the scrape of shovels. No, the sound is softer, subtle. Like the earth finally taking a deep breath and saying, okay, this is good. That's the sound I heard the day we laid the final bricks around the garden path at Trenton Commons. It was spring now. Real spring. The kind that makes tulips brave enough to bloom through sidewalk cracks and brings warm wind that smells like cut grass and second chances. The sky was wide and clean, like it had something to celebrate. And the park, our park, was alive. What started as an empty lot and a whispered idea had become something real. Kids screaming joy instead of pain. Teens playing pickup games under fresh painted backboards. Retirees planting herbs in the raised beds next to a wooden bench etched with names of donors, most of whom didn't give cash, just time. Underneath it all, the mural stood tall. Tyler had added more figures, some flying, some laughing, one sitting still in a wheelchair with a basketball in her lap and a fire in her eyes. The scorch mark was still there, but now it was part of the painting. A tree grew from it, roots curling around the burn like it was holding it in place. I sat on the edge of the stage we built from reclaimed lumber and looked out over the park like it was a painting I'd spent years trying to finish. Claire joined me. She didn't say anything at first. Just sat beside me, 2 coffees in hand. One black, one with way too much cream, mine. You look like a man trying to figure out what he did right, she said. Close, I replied. Trying to figure out why it took me so long to do it. She sipped her drink. Takes what it takes. We watched the sun fall across the pavement, watched Tyler race his bike around the path like he owned the wind. You ever miss it? She asked after a while. The business. The grind. The everything. I thought about that. I missed the purpose, I said. But I found a better one. She nodded, eyes on the horizon. I'm glad you stayed. Me too. And I meant it. Every damn word. In the weeks that followed, I did something I never thought I'd do again. I taught. I hosted workshops under the pavilion, how to read a blueprint, permits and politics, what a load-bearing beam actually means. Teenagers showed up. So did guys in their 40s who'd never built anything but debt. I gave them tools. Not the kind that fit in a box, the kind that stay in your head. Tony took over a second park renovation 2 towns over. Leo joined him, and before I knew it, we had something that looked suspiciously like a movement. People emailed, wrote letters, asked if they could copy the model. I told them not to copy anything. Don't build what we built, I wrote back. Build what you need. And start with love, not money. Then one day, Sheila came to visit. I recognized her before she even knocked. Crisp white shirt. Clipboard tucked under one arm like it was fused to her hip. She stood in the sun, blinking up at the mural like it didn't fit into her world. I thought I'd find you behind a desk in a trailer, she said. I pointed to the stump I'd carved my name into with a pocket knife. Close enough. She sat down beside me. We talked for a while about the company, the buyout, finalized, clean, and the fact that I was officially out. No strings, no shares, no boardroom hangovers. I thought it would kill me to walk away, I told her. And? I feel lighter than I've ever been. She smiled. Well, we kept your office. Just in case. I shook my head. I've got one now. It's got no walls, smells like mulch, and comes with free chalk art. She laughed. A real one. Then she pulled something out of her bag and handed it to me. A check. Not from the company. From her. What's this? I asked. I want to sponsor your next park, she said. Not as a corporation. As a person who believes in what you're doing. I didn't say anything. Just hugged her. The kind of hug you save for people who remember the worst version of you and still want to help build the best. Years from now, no one will remember my net worth. They won't talk about the merger I passed on or the skyscraper I never built. But maybe they'll walk through a park where their kid learned to shoot a basketball. Maybe they'll sit under a tree someone else planted and feel a little less alone. Maybe they'll read a plaque at the entrance that says, "Dedicated to the ones who never stopped believing in simple things." And maybe they'll whisper, "Thank you. That's enough for me. That's everything."